For your viewing pleasure.
We're
Is there a
muted.
problem?
Nobody heard that.
Oh.
We were just listen. We were having a private conversation. Okay, we weren't muted. You intruded on us. I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
Now,
you walked in here.
Since you guys are here, we'll do a show for you. I guess. We'll
honestly rude, but
yeah,
fine.
I guess I have some notes I can pull up here and some stuff we can talk about. I guess, but I wasn't really planning on this. But since you guys are here, welcome.
Yeah, why don't you knock next time?
Please, respect
Ever heard
our
of
privacy.
knocking?
Welcome to another episode of TGG Plus. It's Friday. And we're here. We're here as always to talk about some stuff. We got a lot of stuff to go through today. We got a lot of good news, a lot of wild stuff. PlayStation 5 Pro was revealed this week. We're going to talk about that, give our opinions. The Soul Reaver Kickstarter campaign has finished. There's some news about the Annapurna Interactive team resigning. We're going to dig into that. And probably the thing I'm most excited to talk about is there was another episode of the Metal Gear production hotline this week. Nothing crazy, nothing huge updates or anything like that, but there was definitely some interesting insight into how they're thinking about Delta, how they're thinking about Master Collection Volume 2 and stuff. So we're going to talk about all that stuff as the show progresses. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Evan Prince.
That's me.
And don't forget to like the stream if you enjoy this broadcast. Don't forget to
that was your alert to like the stream. So like it.
Yes, just to like it. That's your alert. When you hear that noise, like the stream. If you already have, do it again. I don't know how you do that, but you can probably figure it out.
Unlike it, re-like it, hit the alert notification thing.
Yeah, you just gotta keep spamming. You gotta keep spamming the unlike.
Email it to your loved ones. Email the stream to your loved ones.
Sammy says, "Jesus Christ, that was loud." That's the jump scare button. That's to keep you awake. Yeah, so we'll be getting into all that. Like the stream if you enjoy. You can always super chat if you feel called to. If some sort of ethereal, maybe otherworldly force wills it, and pushes you to do that, then, do so, because we wouldn't want to disrupt any sort of,
we need to preserve the dichotomy between the different dimensions. And the only way to do that is when you feel the inkling, the urge to super chat, you have to give into it. Otherwise you could be putting the timelines in jeopardy.
Well, I mean, we've always considered ourselves proprietors of, AI, making sure that people, that's why they come on the show is to prove that they aren't AI. And so we're also proprietors of relations between other dimensions as well. We have a lot of jobs and titles, but that's just
a big reason the show exists is actually to preserve the integrity between dimensions. That's part of why this podcast has to exist. It's part of why we have to do what we do. We're doing this for the good of all reality, your reality as you know it. We are keeping the threads of the fabric of what you know is reality together via this podcast. So this is very important.
CIA funded.
Very important work.
Anyways, so like always, we like to let's just ease into it a little bit. Let's make it nice and smooth. Let's make it good. And we will slow it down. Evan, how's your week been? What have you been up to? What have you been doing?
My week's been pretty good, pretty chill. I was able to kind of get ahead of the curve on my work. And this week has been kind of playing with different ideas for videos. So I've been playing more Van Helsing. We talked about this last week for the PS2. I'm actually on my second playthrough. It's like New Game Plus. So I'm checking out the different cheats, the secrets, the extra content. It's a short game, so you really have to play through it twice. And then I've been playing through Syndicate, which, you and I actually talked a little bit about that off stream and how difficult it is to play this game. It's very hard to come by. So I've been playing some Syndicate, really, really good FPS game, highly, highly underrated. And then last night, my girlfriend and I finished up watching this movie called Fall Guy. You seen it? It's a new movie with Ryan Gosling.
I You were talking to me. Yeah. I think you were talking to me about this a week ago or so when we were playing Deadlock or something.
Yeah, we watched the first half of it and then we finished it as well.
Was it
It's
good?
actually really good. It's
Yeah.
a really wholesome, fun movie. It's kind of almost a breath of fresh air to watch something that's like, it's fun. It's kind of self-aware, but not in like a pretentious, annoying way, but in like a fun, we're all having fun kind of way. Really, really good movie. I think it was great. It's if you have a Peacock subscription, you can watch it.
Oh, Peacock subscription. I remember when that came out, I was kind of interested in it. He plays a stuntman, doesn't he?
Yeah, he plays a
like
stuntman.
Drive.
Yeah, he
but
plays.
Just a little
yeah, and he does a lot of
tone.
driving. Actually, he drives a lot in this film.
It's the sequel.
Yeah,
it's what happens after he gets out.
Yeah, he became a stuntman. It's very it's very like tongue in cheek, but it's got a lot of great action sequences. And
that's it. You're on my shit list.
Sammy A with the first super chat of the night. 5 bones. Thank you, brother. Here's to the ever evolving dichotomy of parasocial relationships, I guess. Lol. Thank you. We appreciate you. Keep involving yourself in this horribly abusive relationship.
And, we're looking out for the timelines. Don't worry.
Yeah, we got you. We got you. So Fall Guy, you liked it. You've been playing Van Helsing.
Mm-hmm. Great game.
Great game. Any good secrets in that game? You said there was secrets and cheats. Is there a big head mode?
Yes, actually, there is a big head mode.
go.
Surprisingly, there's a lot of little quirks like that. Which makes a second playthrough really fun. So there's cheats you can unlock, and one of them is a big head mode, which is really funny. It makes everybody have a big head, obviously. But there's also a cheat that miniaturizes the enemies. So if you combine those two cheats, all of the enemies are like these tiny bodies with enormous heads.
Yeah.
And it's really funny to fight them that way. Imagine Devil May Cry, but all of the enemies had big heads and tiny bodies.
There was I was playing that game Angerfoot that came out recently, that little FPS game. And they had a big head mode in that game, but it wasn't a cheat. It was as you progress through the game and you get more stars on each level, you unlock new sneakers, and the sneakers have power-ups when you wear them. So it just makes like certain things easier, but their big head mode made it easier in the game because it was easier to get headshots on the enemies. You know what I mean?
Makes sense.
I thought that was kind of a cool thing to, it wasn't just like a funny little gag. It was like, it's actually makes the game a little bit easier.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I've been up to. It's pretty fun. What have you been doing all week?
I've been playing a lot of games. I'm still chugging away at MGS5. I've gotten all the footage I need. I'm recording the script now. Actually, the script is done, but I can't stop playing it. I don't know what it is. I just can't. I just check it for every day for like 3 hours. Like I get up, have my coffee, I check. I see how far are my online dispatch missions. How. Did I finish my base development yet? Did I get that next platform built? And I do a couple side ops, and I do infiltrate some people's FOBs, steal their soldiers. Usually fail because I'm really bad at it, and I get killed and die. Don't get anything. Lose some heroism, all that kind of stuff. I'm like addicted to it. I just can't put it down. And it's so hard to like 100%. It takes so much time because the side ops are so like, there's so many. There's 150 side ops in the game. You got to get S rank in all the missions. You have to like capture all the animals as well, which is like really difficult to do for some of them. So just like, I feel like I'm just going to be playing this game until I die, probably.
You're going to keep playing it even after the videos are done and out?
I mean, that's what's been happening so far. I think, maybe if something else comes along and really takes my attention away and I just don't have any time for it, maybe not, but it's so replayable and it's so good. It's so fun. It's like, why would I stop playing this game? It's so damn good. Yeah, but I was playing that. I played Astrobot, finished that, platinum that. It was pretty good. I can't really say much about it that a million other people online haven't already said. It's really good. Probably
Yeah.
not as good as everybody else is saying, but I liked it quite a bit.
Yeah. A lot of positive discourse to finally have a single video game on the PlayStation 5. Then Sony
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, you're never gonna believe it. Do you want to play Astrobot, but slightly nicer?"
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that shortly. But yeah, it was fun. I think a lot of the game, I didn't feel because a lot of what people are saying about the game is that it's this love letter to PlayStation games or these classic games, because a lot of these games aren't even PlayStation first party titles. And I felt some of that throughout the game, but it wasn't really that strong. And then when you beat like the final true mission, that's when I was like, okay, this ending, this finale is really cool. I liked that part. But the rest of the game was just, it was kind of fun. It felt more like, ooh, there's a character I know. And it was also kind of like, it gets really old after the 30th character that you find, and you're like, oh, that one's not going to get a game anytime soon either. Cool. Yeah. You know, like it was just like that the whole time.
Well, Sony can't make new games on them because they don't have exclusives anymore.
That's true. Yeah.
They don't have any original IPs.
But it was fun. I liked it. If you have a PS5 and you like platformers, I'd get it. It's gonna be a decent platformer with some good mechanics and some fun little things. Definitely is not game of the year. Don't let people lie to you. It's Animal Well, the infinitely better platformer. Just saying.
If you had to pick like a AAA game of the year though, like not an indie game, let's just say, I mean, just obviously you don't commit to the answer, but speculatively be like, okay, if I was gonna, asked on the spot, AAA game, let's discount indie games. What do you think?
What would my AAA game of the year
speculatively, not committed.
Just like my best. I don't know. I guess fuck, man. I don't know. I guess it would be like my favorite one was probably Yakuza 8, I guess.
So you think that's more game of the year than Astrobot?
To me, it's my game of the year. I'm not prescribing this to everybody, but I think personally, it was my game of the year. If
what about Black Myth Wukong?
No.
You didn't like that?
I kind of gave up on it after a little bit. I'm gonna be honest. Maybe I don't think it's a bad game, by the way. I think it's I do think it's a really good game. But its systems are just kind of weird. It's this weird little line between action game and Souls-like where you just like want to go crazy on this enemy like you're in DMC or something. But you just can't, because that's just not what the game is. It's not what it's built for. And I don't know. I think I got kind of burnt out on it a little bit. And then that followed by like Space Marine 2, which also had these like light parry dodge elements things. I was just like, like I'm kind of over the whole parry. Every game has to have a fucking parry mechanic,
Yeah, that is getting old.
Yeah.
I think. I do kind of something you said just a minute ago. I do kind of miss when games like would give you opportunities to just go wild, and like just kill a bunch of things and kind of have like a little bit of a power fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was playing, when I was finishing up my first playthrough of Van Helsing, there's one boss near the end of the game. It's actually really hard, and it like makes you kind of learn the patterns and be patient. And that is very much a game that incentivizes just going wild and like having fun and killing things. So it was kind of a little bit of a shock to the system. Be like, damn, I can't just like fight this boss. I have to like be calculated and be patient and not get greedy. And then I just realized, I was like, dude, I just remembered why I don't want to play Souls-likes.
Yeah.
Because I just stopped having fun for the duration of that boss battle. I was like, this is what most people like. Be calculated, learn the patterns, dodge, wait, fire, be patient. Like just waste like 10 minutes slowly weathering the enemy down. I was like, this isn't fun for me though. You know, that's not really my style of gameplay. Because then I went and played a bunch of Syndicate. I was like, oh yeah, this is great. Just jump in and kill a bunch of things and just be fast.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's just the emergent game design right now. Everybody's doing it. Every game's got to have it. It's the trend. It's whatever. It just kind of, I don't know. It sours the experience for me a little bit. And I don't think Souls games are bad. I don't think parry mechanics are bad. I don't think dodge mechanics are bad or anything like that. I just I don't know. Sometimes I'm not in the mood for it, and I'm expecting something different, and then I boot it up, and I'm like, here we fucking go.
Souls-like.
You know? Yeah. So,
From Software and its consequences have been a disaster for the video game industry.
I did one other thing I did want to say. It's not here yet, so I can't speak on how much I like it, but I did finally order a Steam Deck.
Oh, you ordered a Steam Deck. Let's go.
I ordered a
Steam
Steam Deck. It is on its way. I think it gets here tomorrow. Another 5 bones from Don Juan. Love your vids. Sexy. Oh. Binge them all the time whilst I play games or read my manga. Well, thank you.
That's good. That's what they're for.
That's what they're for. They're second monitor content. That's what we like to call them. But thank you. Thank you for the support. We appreciate it. Yeah, I ordered a Steam Deck. I finally did. I was like, I've just seen so many people recommend it over and over again, and never really wanted to pull the trigger. I also didn't pull the trigger because I didn't know how cheap it was.
How expensive is it?
The highest model, the high end one, the one with the most space and the OLED screen is like $650. But I think the cheapest one's like $350 or something like that. For some reason in my head, I was like, this thing's $1,000. That was what I thought. So I went to go look at the price, and it was, not that. And I was like, oh shit, this is a steal,
What game did you buy it for though? Like, what are you going to play on that thing?
I didn't buy it for any game, but I have so many games on Steam that I play all the time that, when I'm just relaxing and chilling, and so, sometimes I want to just play a video game and chill that I'm not doing a video on, but I don't want to do it in here. I don't want to do it at my office where I do all my work and stuff. I want to just fucking, chill or something.
Makes sense.
So yeah, I bought that. We'll see how it is. I'm excited. I haven't been excited for a physical fucking system in a minute, I feel like a kid again. I'm getting a PSP.
You mean you weren't excited when you bought that Tony Hawk peripheral?
No, I was not.
Speaking of Tony Hawk, did you see that he made an announcement where he's gonna?
I did.
Apparently, he's talking about something with somebody.
Yeah, I think it was an interview or from his podcast or something. I don't know. That guy does so many speaking appearances that
he really does.
Who knows what it was from? But yeah, he said that he has something in the works with Activision right now, but they're not ready to announce it. Somebody tweeted that at me last night. Actually, I woke up at 6 a.m. half awake, and I was looking at my phone, and I was like, oh, cool, new Tony Hawk game. And then I went back to sleep.
Very well timed video on your end.
Yes, yeah.
How about that?
So hopefully. I'm hoping for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 remake.
Underground 3.
Maybe Underground remake. Maybe Underground 1 and 2 remake. Maybe Underground 3. Who knows? But
Underground remaster, remaster collection would be pretty good, 1 and 2.
Yeah. TAC2 says, what's a Steam Deck? Yeah, sorry. If you don't know what a Steam Deck is out there, it's just it's a portable console that you can use Steam on. You play... Valve makes them. You can play all of your Steam games, not all of your Steam games. Some games aren't compatible with it, but you can play your Steam games on this system, handheld. You can dock it and put it on your TV if you want. But yeah, from what I've heard, it's great. So I'm interested.
What do you think is going to be the first game you're going to play on your Steam Deck?
I had a game
to break it in.
I had a game that I was thinking of. Well, the thing that I was thinking about doing was so I'm working on an indie game video in the background right now, kind of off to the side a little bit. And I've been playing a bunch of indie games, and I was thinking about I don't want to spoil these games. So maybe I'm only going to record the first few hours of them. And then maybe, once I get that footage, I can just play these games, while I'm doing that. So there's a couple indie games that I've played a bunch, but I still want to get like maybe full completion, 100% completion in, but I can just grind that out while I'm, laying in bed at the end of the night or chilling on the couch or something, or
true.
But yeah, so I don't have a specific game, but I do have some games in mind right now that I'm thinking about. Y'all playing Space Marine 2? I have been. Have you played it yet?
I have not. No, I haven't pulled the trigger to buy it yet.
Okay. Yeah, I've been playing it a bit. I've gotten pulled away here and there for a couple other things, just making videos and stuff, and just playing these indie games. So I haven't had much time to get to it, but I did beat the campaign. I played a bunch of the operations, and I played a lot of the PvP. I really enjoyed the PvP. I was playing a bulwark shield guy. I like that class a lot. The class was really fun. I don't know if they've fixed it yet, but it was kind of OP in the beginning because people didn't know how to handle it. Because you have a shield that you can hold up like actively, and they can't hit you with like bullets. So I think the best way to handle that class is to do a heavy attack on them or something. Or yeah, if you do melee on them, it bypasses their armor or something like that. But in the beginning, like people didn't know how to deal with it. So you're just like slowly walking towards them with the shield, and then you just like kill them. It was pretty sweet, but it's been fun. All right. Do we want to move into the news?
There's a few things to talk about in the news.
Yeah. So the first thing that happened this week was Sony had announced sort of end of last week that they had a technical presentation by Mark Cerny himself. Last time we got a technical presentation by Mark Cerny, it was the reveal of the PlayStation 5. So I think everybody generally knew, except for the YouTube chat on the GameSpot YouTube channel, because everybody there thought it was like, I kept seeing comments that were like, new Metal Gear game, new Metal, like stuff like that, and like new God of War, and I was like, there's not going to be a game announcement here. But I think everybody knew that it was, PS5 Pro. There's been rumors about it for a while, and yeah, that's what it was. They announced the PS5 Pro. Before we get into what everybody else is talking about, what the people are talking about, I kind of wanted to say, so did you watch the presentation?
No, but you might want to turn off G-Man Lives caption on the camera.
Shit, might be.
Sorry, fellas. G-Man Lives will not be a guest on this episode,
is not
but
here.
We will probably have him back at some point.
Yeah, he's not here. We wish he was. He's here in spirit. How about that?
He's here in my heart, right here.
So did you watch it?
No, I did not. I skipped it.
Okay. I watched it when it was going on, and I have a bit of a nitpick here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
After the conference, after the price was revealed, everybody was, saying, oh, it doesn't look like it's going to be that good. It's minimal graphical upgrades and all this stuff. When I was watching it before the price was revealed, I was like, okay, it looks a little bit better. If it can achieve, because let me just tell you, the whole thing with the presentation, the whole gist of the presentation was now with the PS5 and modern consoles, they have fidelity mode and optimization mode. Right. So one is 30 FPS with higher level of detail, higher resolution, whatever. And the other one is 60 FPS with lower resolution. So it can attain that 60 FPS. Their whole thing with the PS5 Pro was there's no more option. You're just going to get higher level of fidelity and 60 FPS. Now, if they can attain that, I think that's good. I think that's good for the console market. And I think that is a good upgrade. That's a viable upgrade for the system. But when it comes to the price, then it's a different conversation, right? But I just saw a lot of people dunking on it and saying, what is this? This isn't an upgrade or whatever. And I was like, it's a kind of an upgrade. I mean, it's an upgrade you would expect for consoles at this point in time,
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. There are some undeniable there are some undeniable upgrades. There are some undeniable step ups. Like you mentioned, the fidelity and the graphical capabilities. Honestly, I feel like the biggest upgrade to this console is something that people probably don't even realize, which is that it is unlocking higher potential thresholds for developers to work with. Is what I think the biggest upgrade here is, because just those little.
Oh, your mic's cutting out a little bit.
Oh, it does that. Just those little things that you mentioned are already. They seem small, and you're like, oh well, how's this going to improve my gameplay experience and all of this? But I actually think it will go a long way in unlocking higher thresholds for mechanical potential for developers to work with what the kinds of games that they're making, what the games are capable of, how much they can put in the game, things of that nature. Of course, the price point is what changes that perspective for a lot of people, but I do think that that's probably the biggest unspoken upgrade for the console, is that it's raising the threshold for developers.
Yeah, well, and just my whole point was, listen, I'm not defending the price or anything. I don't want people to think that I'm defending the price, because I'm not. I think it's ridiculous. We'll get to that in a second.
They're gonna take it that way. They're gonna take it like
I'm sure.
You're cashing that Sony check.
Yeah. I wish I was getting paid by Sony. No, but I'm not defending the price or anything. We'll get to that in a second. But my whole point was, just before the price was revealed, I was like, this is standard. This makes sense. They're announcing AI upscaling, frame generation stuff, just like NVIDIA has. I assumed that technology would come to consoles sooner or later. It works really well on PC, so why not integrate it into consoles? But then the price was revealed, and the price was $700 US, which is insane. It is insane. And
it sent me back in time a little bit to that PS3 reveal.
Well, even so, there was a tweet. Let me see if I can find it. But somebody tweeted and listed the PlayStation launch prices for every console and Pro version in PlayStation's history. Inflation adjusted. Yeah,
that was Jeff Keighley. He adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, and it was even the PS3 wasn't that expensive, and the PS3 was, I don't know if people remember, but it was fucking, when that price was announced, people were like, holy shit, like they were adamantly against it. So so there's a couple things here. It's $700 base price for the Pro model. It doesn't come with a disk drive. There's no disk drive model. It's just a digital model. And you have to buy the disk drive attachment, which isn't the $50 upgrade that it is for the normal system, because the normal system is $450 for the digital version and then $500 for the disk drive version. It's an $80 upgrade. So now you're at $780, and the thing doesn't even come with a damn stand. It doesn't even come with a damn stand. They nickel and dime you on the fucking stand. Dude.
We're back to that Apple controversy. Do you remember, this was a couple of years ago, when Apple announced their monitor? It was $1,000.
Yeah.
It was a $1,000 monitor. It was this big monitor. It had all these things, and the stand was sold separately and was like an additional $100 or something. I remember this vividly because I was, working at a tech store at the time, and it was just all the conversation. It was like, they're selling the stand separately. It's this monitor. It's like, you could get this exact monitor non-Apple for like $500.
Yeah.
It just kind of reminds me of that. It's like, they're doing all this for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and they're not even selling the stand. And this isn't something, I don't want to just speculate wildly, but I do think there is a huge degree of this where it's like, they're charging this because they know people will buy it, not because this is, the true value of the console that accounts for cost of production, cost of distribution, and accounting for profit. It's like they're trying to get more profit. That's literally all it is. I remember I talked about this on one of my own streams, where it's like, there was like a phone call or something leaked from like Taco Bell a couple of years ago, like a year or two ago, where it was like they were talking about raising the prices of their menu items, and it's like, well, we know people will pay for it. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It's like we're leaving money on the table by not charging more, and we should raise our prices because people will still buy it. And people, if you compare like the cost of Taco Bell 5 years ago, the cost of Taco Bell now, it's insane, and it does not account for inflation at all. It's like even if you take into account inflation, it's still an enormous price hike.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still buying it. People are still buying it. And so why the hell shouldn't Sony charge an extra $200 just because?
Yeah. Well,
if people buy it.
It's the same thing with, what's going on with inflation right now. Prices went up, companies started charging more, and then, as inflation comes down, they're not going to fucking decrease those prices. Why would they? You're paying for it, But so, I think the biggest thing the biggest thing that's crazy to me about this right now is not just that the price is high, right? It's that this price kills the validity of the PlayStation 5 as a alternative to a PC.
It's like the cost of a gaming PC. Yeah.
Yeah, because so say you pay $700 for the base model. You don't get a stand, you don't get a disc drive. You have a digital console. And that removes one of the only advantages that consoles have left over PC gaming, which is the fact that you can buy physical discs. So you're attracting the physical media crowd, or the fact that the physical discs can be sold later at a price to recoup some of the money you spent, or bought later at a lower price to, get some of those savings. With the disc drive gone, that's gone. That advantage is completely removed. And then on top of that, the price was usually an advantage as well. The PS5 base model is still pretty pricey for what it is, but it was still maybe a little bit cheaper than what you're getting with a PC. So you're appealing to a crowd that doesn't want to spend that much and doesn't want the hassle of maybe building a PC. But you have like none of those advantages anymore. If you buy the disc drive and the stand, you're up at $800. You're above $800, and it's just insane. There is no reason, and the only reason that they have left is exclusives. But there's no exclusives. They all get ported to PC anyways. I think the only exclusives they have right now are God of War Ragnarok, but that might have come out today or tomorrow on PC. And I guess 2. Yeah, I guess Final Fantasy 2, Stellar Blade, Astrobot is really what they have right now as far as exclusive. Maybe the second Horizon game hasn't been ported to PC yet. I'm not sure.
That's like, what is that, like 8 games?
8 games?
Yeah, how many we list? You said Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 7 Part 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West or whatever, Astrobot. What were the other ones?
I think that's it.
I feel like there were more. Okay, there's at least 5. There's at least 5 exclusives.
Yeah, there's like 5, I think. Oh,
well,
wait. I think is the second Horizon game called Forbidden West? Yeah, that one's already on PC, so they don't have that one.
Oh, so what does that leave? Astrobot, Spider-Man 2, Final Fantasy 7 Part 2, and what was the other one?
Stellar Blade.
Stellar Blade. That's 4.
4 games.
That's fucking bad. I mean, Xbox isn't doing that much better, is it?
No, but they're not trying to, right? They're in my mind, the appeal of the Xbox has always been its price point. It's incredibly cheap. They offer financing options so that you can buy it like a phone to make it even more cheap, so that there's entry level. There's like an entry level point for people that don't have the money to be able to get a system. Too.
Yeah. Oh, and Demon's Souls Remake.
Demon's Souls Remake. That's it. Thank you, Ryan. But it's so much cheaper, and then the digital edition is like even cheaper. So that was always the appeal to me of the Xbox, was that. But they're not concerned at all with exclusivity between PC and the console, because their games come out on PC most of the time day one on Game Pass or on the Xbox app or whatever. So I don't think that's ever been a concern for them, especially because they have control of the marketplace that it's sold from as well. They're selling it through Game Pass or through the Xbox store, like they don't have to worry about losing out on the marketplace fees of Steam. I'm sure some of them are sold on Steam, but still, the PS5 is just, and I guess I see what they're doing. They're trying to separate themselves from Xbox. They're trying to make that valley even further. So now this is the high-end console system. You can get the Xbox, but why would you? You can get this one. This is the high-end one, those gamers that really want that game to look great. But there's just no advantages over getting a fucking PC. $800 can get you a decent PC these days.
Unless you're like the biggest Horizon fan ever.
Yeah. Which at that point, there's no saving you.
Yeah, like...
do they not make physical PC games? Do they still do that?
I'm sure there's a few like niche companies that like go out of their way to distribute physical PC games, but there's no high budget games. There's no like major games. It's not really a thing anymore. Like,
I don't think Horizon Forbidden West is coming out on a physical version, like a physical PC disc.
No, you don't really see physical PC games hardly ever anymore.
I don't even have a disc drive in my PC.
I don't either.
I haven't had one. I don't think since I was like 16 and any of the builds that I've made, because I'm just like, why would I spend that $50, $60, whatever, to get a disc drive if I don't have to?
It's true.
Yeah, so I just don't think they really make them anymore. It's not a why not. It's just the way, and it's weird because, you know, we have these things where we get so mad about games not having physical releases when they come to console or stuff like that. But you know, PC games haven't been released physical for years, and it's just sort of the norm. It's been accepted for a really long time. And I just, they were the first one to adopt like a big, huge marketplace that you could easily access, and it just became incredibly simple and successful.
The reason as to why not is very simple. It's not profitable.
Mm-hmm.
It costs far more money than it's worth. Most people would prefer to buy it online because it's faster. You buy it, it's immediately there. No, it's less hassle. It's saved immediately to your Steam library. You just download it. You don't have to pay for distribution. You know, even if you only had to pay for printing the disc and like a cheap like plastic case, you didn't do a manual or box or anything. That's still more money than if you didn't do that. It costs money to do, and most people aren't going to fucking buy that. I mean, unless you're like a collector, and for people like that, you know,
there's not a huge market, so there's no point.
So it loses you money as a company if you unless you're like limited run games, or you're like a company whose whole thing is appealing to that niche market, right? But like the average video game developer or publisher, that's going to lose them money to do that unless they charge absurd amounts for it to recoup their costs. Because the way that distribution works is the more of an item you order to be manufactured, the less you pay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the bigger the bulk, the less money. I mean, you obviously pay more money technically, but if you only print like 200 copies of a game, it's going to cost you a lot more than it's worth.
Yeah.
So they just don't do it. It would be unprofitable.
Yeah,
that's not where we are anymore as a society.
Yeah, and it'll probably go the same way with consoles eventually too. You know,
yeah. I think consoles are actually just gonna fucking die out. Like if they're
possible.
Charging the cost of an entry-level gaming PC for a PlayStation 5, you're seeing the end of the consoles.
And the thing is too, the PS5 is not doing as good as it once was. There was this time where the console was selling incredibly well, and it was looking like it was going to outpace the PS4. And since then, those sales have fallen drastically. And it would be lucky if it met the same demand as the PS4 did at this point. So it just, I don't know. It's not a good situation, certainly.
They are going to, you know, there is part of me, right? There's part of me somewhere in the back of my head that wonders, does Sony know something we don't? Like, is there a baller exclusive that they're sitting on? They're like, dude, when we announce this, people are going to be pre-ordering this PS5 Pro. I doubt it, by the way. I'm just trying to come at this from some kind of angle because it seems, I mean, after they spent was it 200 million on Concord,
Something
and they
like
just
that.
lost. Yeah, they just lost all of it.
They
So
bought the developer.
huh?
They bought the
What?
developer.
Yeah, they bought the developer. That game was in production for a long time. They licensed it to be an episode on that was it Secret Level?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Secret
you
level.
know that the developers of that show weren't like itching to make an episode for Concord. That was Sony being like, "Hey, do this,
How
we'll
much?
give you the license." Yeah, right. Like they were expecting Concord to be super good, like
Yeah.
do super well, and it didn't. Right? So it makes me wonder, did they have another exclusive that like is a different idea, different take that they're thinking, okay, well, that one didn't work, but this one's going to work, and when people see it, they're going to be, pre-ordering this PS5 Pro. I doubt it, but
It's
maybe?
possible. I've heard rumors that there's supposed to be a state of play at the end of this month or something like that. I've been seeing. I think maybe it was Jason Schreier who had fueled those rumors a little bit. Can't specifically remember where it came from, but I do remember seeing that. So it's possible. Maybe there's a state of play coming up, and they got some really banger things.
Yeah, so
to
an
announce.
example of something that I think might get people, and this is something that I have like definitive, like I have receipts that I could probably prove this to some degree. Bloodborne remaster, Bloodborne remake, right?
It's fair.
PS5 Pro exclusive. Won't work on the PS5, right? But what if it's like a PS5 Pro exclusive or some shit like that, right? Or you bundle it with the PS5 Pro or something like that. I'm pretty sure
I think
5
they
Pro
would get a lot of shit if it was a PS5 Pro exclusive. I think
I don't think they would do that. I'm trying to figure out what
it would just be.
But maybe
it would
they
be
bundle
marketed. It would be marketed like they did, like they marketed the PS4 Pro. It runs best on the PS4 or PS5 Pro, like they did with the PS4. Just marketing it as this is the definitive way to play the game. You really want to buy this system.
I think if they bundled, right? I think if they did a PlayStation 5 Bloodborne remaster bundle, like you buy or something like, maybe not necessarily Bloodborne. I'm using that as an example because people really want it, but like something like that. It's like, we know people really, really want this.
Yeah.
We're sitting on it. We haven't announced it yet, but we're going to do a PS5 Pro bundle. Cause I remember, when I was, this was years ago, but I remember they had a Destiny 2 PlayStation 4 Pro bundle. And I like caught it on a $50 sale, and I just impulse bought it.
Yeah.
Wasn't even planning to get it that day. I just happened to have the cash, and I was like, fuck it. This looks cool. So bundles can sell.
Yeah. I mean, it's the appeal is definitely to the mass market crowd, 100%. Like it's I don't have this system and I want to buy this system. Oh, but I can get this version that gives me a game with it. It comes with a game, like that
a game
kind
that
of
I
thing.
wanted.
Yeah. So there's something there. But like you said, it would have to be a huge game, I think, to change the public opinion, because there's a lot of these things that we talk about that maybe they're only, for the people that really pay attention to the industry or that really pay attention to games. There's going to be a valley between our opinion and the opinion of like the general public. But I think with this, when the general public sees a $700 price point, they're having the same opinion as us. They're like, what the fuck? That's too much.
Like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Legacy of Kain remaster only on PS5 Pro, or works best on PS5 Pro.
Only on PS5 Pro. I would be so pissed. I would have to buy a fucking PS5 Pro. I'd need a compelling virtual universe to cough out $800+ for a console and another $60 for one game. Yeah, it's a lot.
I might be willing to finance a PS5 Pro if they like put out the most like edge Kino bullshit.
Yeah. Just
I might if they were like runs best on PS5 Pro, this ridiculous like edge Kino game. I was like, damn, I really want that.
It's just called Back to 2005. That's what the game is called. It has nothing to do with 2005.
Just hyper violent.
But yeah, it's called Back to 2005.
What's a game that would be bundled with the PS5 Pro that would make you say, damn, I really want to experience that on the highest fidelity setting? Like what like remake or what could they do?
There's no game that's going to get me to buy unless it's exclusive. That's what I'm saying. Like if it was exclusive to the PS5 Pro,
there's no game that could be bundled with the Pro that would make you say, I want that on the highest fidelity.
I don't really care. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to let you guys in on a little bit of something. there's a reason I don't really talk about technical shit in my videos and stuff, because I don't really fucking care, to be honest. I don't really care what a game looks like. I don't really care what the graphics look like. I unless it's like running really poorly, like under 30 FPS constantly to the point where you can notice, I don't really care. And I did an early review on Alan Wake 2. And I said in that video, listen, I'm not the one to get into technical specs here, so I don't know how this runs. I don't know, like, I didn't really have any issues, but if you're looking for like technical data and like, does this run well? Does it have these specs or whatever? That's not me. I'm not that guy. I'm just playing the game. I like the game. I don't.
That guy, pal.
Yeah, I'm not that guy, pal. Yeah. So I just don't really, I don't really care about that stuff. And there's really not a game that's going to make me go, I want to play this at a higher fidelity for $700. Like it just isn't there.
I hadn't really thought about it until I saw this comment from Dizzy Lane here, but it should be, if it was backwards compatible with like PS4 3, 2, and 1, that might justify it, because that's something Xbox so majorly has over PlayStation, because most like original Xbox games, most 360 games you can buy on the Xbox One marketplace and just play it. So like there was an old game I was looking at called Breakdown that I was like, oh, I'd like to play this. Runs on the new Xbox systems. It's an old original Xbox game, right? But I can't play Killzone 3 on my PS4.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's annoying. I can't play one of the most high like budget, highly rated titles of the PS3 on the 4. I can't play PS4. Can you play PS4 games on the 5? I'm pretty sure you can't, right?
You can't play discs, I don't think, but you can play.
Yeah.
You can download games from the store. Oh.
I'm fixing it.
Oh, there you go.
Check. The thing about it is that feels like a no-brainer. Like, why the fuck is it that hard? Is there that much technical like nonsense between consoles?
Yeah.
You'd think that you would be able to do that.
Yeah, even I did see some stuff on Twitter where people were like, if the PS5 Pro allowed you to play PS1, PS2, PS3, PS4 games, I would buy it. And I agree. Yeah, that's something that would make me buy it. If I could play, if you gave me a good, decent, strong library of PS1, PS2, and PS3 games on the PS5 Pro, yeah, of course I'm going to buy it. Like you said, the Xbox. When I was playing the Xbox Series S that I have a lot when I was doing the Fable and Silent Hill videos, and just accessing those games is super easy. It's just there. You just download them, you buy them, you download them, you play them. That's it. Also, the other thing the fucking Xbox has on the PS5 is being able to start 2 applications at once and keep them open and switch from game to game if you want at any time, and it just starts right where you had it. You know, it has that. If the PlayStation 5 Pro doesn't have that, which they didn't say anything about that, so I doubt it does, it's stupid.
I can't get over this library issue too, especially with the PS5 being constantly criticized for having no games, right?
Yeah.
You know, and with such a juicy backlog of great franchises, it's such a problem, dude, that there's games, they have series that go from the PS1 to the 2, then to the 2 to the 3, the 3 to the 4, and you can't just play them all in one place. Yeah, exactly. So if you look at like Halo, which is one of Microsoft's biggest franchises, you can boot up your Xbox, you can play Halo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can play 1, 2, 3, 4, Reach 5, right? I hate to bring up Killzone, but it's what I've been talking about. It's a series I'm doing, and it's a popular PlayStation exclusive. You want to play Killzone? You can do 1 through 3 on the PlayStation 3, but you can't play Shadowfall on the 3. You have to play Shadowfall on the 4. You can't play Killzone Mercenary on anything. You have to play Killzone Mercenary on the Vita. You can play Liberation on the PlayStation 4, but I don't think you can play it on the 3. Do you see how?
Yeah.
You can't just say, "Oh, I want to play those Killzone games," and play it. If you could do that on the PS5 Pro, that would be huge. If you could get a PlayStation 5 Pro and be like, okay, I just want to play all the Killzone games. I've always wanted to try those out. I'm just going to play 1 through Shadowfall and get the experience. But the fact that you can't do that is such a problem that they could have fixed.
I just don't know. Well, the problem becomes, and you know, we should probably move on to the next thing after this, because we've been fucking ranting about the PS5 forever. But I think the problem is it's licensing, right? Like you have to they have to license these old games, right, to put them on their marketplace at least.
I think Sony owns Killzone though.
Well, not Killzone, but if you're talking about PS1, PS2, PS3 games, like all that stuff, you want that
Maybe
solid library, you're going to have to license those games, and they're only going to pay for those licensing fees if they know there's going to be a return. So like Silent Hill 2 or something like that would make sense, but something like, I don't know, fucking Wild Arms doesn't really make sense.
Right, yeah. I mean,
no shade to the Wild Arms fans out there, by the way. I didn't mean to say that.
But I do feel like there's a healthy library of franchises that they could probably have licensed with relative ease. I mean, Siphon Filter, you could probably license that for cheap and get all of them running on your PS5 Pro.
That's true. I do agree with you though. That's the avenue forward. That's the thing that makes this system worth buying is, you know, harping on those old games. And it goes great with the Astrobot philosophy that they've gone with, this sort of tentpole game that they just released, this philosophy of let's look back, let's honor the things from the past. Boom, you pair that with the PS5, make that this system's philosophy, and you got something good. But they haven't even said anything about that, so I highly doubt that they're doing
it doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going. But in an age of remakes and reboots like we're in, it kind of feels like you might be leaving money on the table by not saying you liked the reboot, go buy these other games we own for $20 a piece when you're spending very little money on that. If all you pay is for like, especially if you already own the license, right? So for all the games they already own the license for, you're paying nothing. You're just paying the cost of putting them on the system. But if you have to do a little bit of licensing, if you can sell a 20-year-old game for $20 on your marketplace and use the new reboot that you're already releasing to market the older games in the franchise, you know, like if you release, for instance, they're doing that Perfect Dark remake, which I'm sure will come out on the Xbox. They should utilize that as an excuse to be like, hey, why don't you buy Perfect Dark 1 and 0 on our, which are both the remake, which is they did a remake for the 360. Why don't you buy the Perfect Dark remake for the 360 and the 0 game? Buy those for $20 a package. They might just be able to use the remakes and reboots as marketing for their old games, but you can't do that on PlayStation because your old games aren't compatible.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Dante's Inferno is a banger. I see that in the chat. You guys should check out my retrospective on that. I did one. It's like an hour and a half long.
Yeah, watch Evan's video. That is a great game though. Wild Arms does go hard. I'll give you that. What if they're going for don't play the original and compare our reboot to it and you won't be happy? Yeah, I think that's some of the problem.
I don't think that's the case.
I agree. I think that's some of the problem. Like they don't necessarily want people to play the OG game.
I've seen that too. I've seen people say that the executives are worried that they would have to compete with the old game. The only reason I don't think that's true, and I've had this conversation before, is I don't think any of the publishing executives in charge of marketing or any of these categories, I don't think they even know these old games even fucking exist beyond, oh, this is some old game. I don't think they even consider that. I especially don't think they've thought of the angle of we don't want to compete with our past games because first off, no other industry does that.
Yeah.
No industry has ever done that. So to consider a new industry would be doing that would be silly. I think that angle comes from consumers who don't think that the new games are as good. And they're thinking, oh, wow, if I compare these two, obviously you wouldn't want to compare these two. But executives in charge who are footing the bill, they don't think like that. They don't have the same fondness for old games that you do. It just doesn't come up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a more of an issue when you talk about live service games, like with games competing with old versions, like or even just less like single player narrative experiences. It's more of an issue with multiplayer stuff when people compare or newer games have to compete with their previous entries, because that is a thing you see, but it's rarely with like, you know, Metal Gear Solid 4 competing with Metal Gear Solid 3 or something, you know.
It's a very, very specific thing to like live service games or like multiplayer games. But I mean, if you look at record labels aren't going to suppress older albums to push newer albums. They don't do that.
Yeah.
They just try to get you to listen to all of the albums. If you like a new album, they want to funnel you back to the older albums in the discography and vice versa. Movies do the same thing. Unless you have a very hyper specific like live service game, you're probably only going to stand to benefit by trying to get someone invested into an entire franchise. It's
Yeah.
better for them if you buy the new game and then buy 2 of the old games than if you just bought the new game.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fair.
Thank you, Disneyland. I appreciate that.
So I want to move on, but real quick, I just want to talk about something, not for a ton of time, just want to wrap this little saga up. We've been talking about this a lot on the show for the past few weeks, which is the Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver graphic novel Kickstarter that was launched by BitBot Media a few weeks ago. And, I've obviously been screaming its praises out there to everybody because I want this project funded. I funded it. And I think that good numbers on this project says a lot to the companies that own this IP and that are standing to make the decision to get us a new game or a remaster or a remake or something. So yeah, and it went extremely well. The Kickstarter originally launched and they were looking for $25,000. People spoke with their wallets and funded it with $1.3 million.
That's
Which
crazy.
Just shouts out to the Legacy of Kain community. Super excited for that. Obviously, a lot of the reason for this was all the awesome rewards that they included with different levels of backing and skate decks and model Reaver swords and masks and stuff. So it was really cool to see that do well. And I hope that the executives out there at Embracer or Crystal Dynamics are watching this and saying, okay, maybe it's time to make something. So that was pretty cool. Just wanted to cap that off.
I gotta say, as someone who I don't know very much about Legacy of Kain, obviously, because I've never played it, but as someone who has been a huge fan and supporter of Clayton Scott, Cell Dweller, who owns BitBot Media now. He started off, he was just a musician. He did a bunch of music. He's kind of done different things now, and like he's dabbled in graphic novels and stuff. But as someone who has been a huge fan of him and what he has done for like the industrial, like metal music industry for over a decade, I've been buying his albums as they released. I bought merch. Huge fan of his. I'm beyond stoked to see a project that he's working on and a company that he owns see this kind of massive success. I love the guy. I've watched like probably hundreds of hours of his like YouTube vlog updates and stuff. So this is really cool. I'm really
it was kind of this weird convergence of interests between me and you, because I remember us talking about it and you were like, oh, this is by this guy and he makes music and I've been listening to it forever. And I was like, what the fuck? So yeah, it was like something you really like and something I really like coming together and being really successful. It was very cool for the TGG podcast.
Yeah.
A win. We don't get a lot of wins around here.
Big W. Yeah.
This was one of them. Next thing I want to talk about is the Metal Gear production hotline number 2. If you remember, we talked about this on the podcast a couple months ago, I think. They did a Metal Gear production hotline to update people on where Delta was and just all things Metal Gear. And we kind of joked about that production hotline because they had a survey, a graph with all of the responses that they had collected from this survey about the Metal Gear series, and
some of the ones they showed were really funny.
Yeah, so they had one, if I remember specifically, said that Metal Gear is dead and Konami killed it or something like that. Was the prevailing sentiment from the negative comments, which was really funny. But we kind of recognized how open and honest that was for Konami to show that they were getting those responses and that they were sort of taking them in. But they've done another one. They did another production hotline. And they seem to want to do these regularly. They're talking about doing these regularly. And I just sort of wanted to go over this and talk about what they talked about, what they announced. They didn't, I want to quell your expectations a little bit because they didn't announce anything huge. They didn't announce a release date for Delta or anything like that. But they did say some cool stuff, and I thought it was worth going over. Now, you didn't watch this, right, Evan?
I have not seen this one
okay.
yet, no.
So this will be fresh to you. But the big thing was they had a demo for Metal Gear Solid Delta at some sort of media event, and it was only open to journalists. You know, probably seen some of this stuff on Twitter, people reacting to the demo and saying, you know, their first impressions on it. I believe it was just the Virtuous mission part of the game, just the beginning section. But they, again, included a graph with all of the responses they got. They only got 12% of their responses were negative opinions or mixed, and 88% were positive. People are saying it was a faithful recreation, amazing graphics and visuals, can move while crouched, smoother controls and aiming, easy to see the love and respect for the original. And then the negative opinions were saying it adheres too closely to the original and doesn't feel fresh, outdated loading screens between areas, and few notable features or content. Now, you know, when you see this, what do you think? Because I saw this and I was kind of like, okay, if the only negatives are that the game is too faithful to the original product, then is that really a negative? You know, like, is that a bad thing? Because I don't really think it is, you know, and I especially think obviously there's room for remakes that expand upon the original and add new things and you know, features and mechanics and all that stuff. But I think in this case, especially in the case of Metal Gear Solid 3, or in the case of, you know, other Konami IPs like Silent Hill, being too close to the original isn't really a bad thing, you know?
There's always going to be people who want something different from a product. There's always, you know, people are looking for different things, and you have to take into account that a lot of what people are wanting is going to have to do with like where they are in their life, what they're dealing with, and things of that nature. But I will say, I think it's relieving to see that the sentiment of I wanted something new, different, fresh was like 12%.
Yeah.
That's borderline negligible. I wouldn't call it negligible, because I would only consider negligible to be like, you know, 9% or less, but 12% is close. The overwhelming majority of the sentiment seems to be faithful, be respectful, do not diverge too much. I agree with them.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people. You will never have 99% agreeance of people, you know. Did you ever hear about this survey that people did? This was, I think, this was over a decade ago. They did a survey where they brought in like a couple hundred English teachers or something like that, and they had these teachers grade essays, and then they sent them home, and then they brought the teachers back 6 months later, and they didn't tell them they were grading the same essays, but they had them grade the same essays, and the grades were all radically different.
No, I've never seen that, but that's really interesting.
Yeah. That's a real thing. So yeah, this was necessary. It was like this whole thing to like determine like where the state of education was, where they brought in like 100 or something like that English teachers. They had them grade essays, sent them home, brought them back 6 months later. They didn't tell them they were the same essays. They were like, you know, just grade these essays how you would. And they compared the grades radically different. You know, they went from A's to B's to C's. It was insane. And when they used this, the conclusion they came to was the teacher's opinion of the essay was completely different based on where they were in their life.
Yeah.
And I think that has a lot to do with people and their opinions of video games as well. You know, because you see something that says this is too much like the original, this isn't fresh. You know, this could have a lot to do with where that person is. They might not want more remakes or something like that. They might be looking, it's like, oh, I want a new Metal Gear game. That's what they want. They want a new Metal Gear game.
Yeah.
And it's not really fair to look at a remake and say this isn't new enough. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be new. You just want another Metal Gear game, and that's fair. But your analysis of this remake probably isn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I mean,
it's roundabout, I know, but
no, I get what you're saying. There's always going to be a little bit of bias towards something when you're judging it, obviously. But I think, to sort of go back to this, these sentiments, they addressed them in the production hotline. They said, like, we get that people are saying this. We get that people are, think it's too faithful to the original, but we want to keep it like that. We want to, we want the game to be as faithful to the original as it can be. Yeah, I think and again, it's great to hear that coming from people who are in charge of creative decisions at Konami. So I think that's really cool. They also, something I wanted to point out was that they showed the opening cutscene of the game, which they've showed off a little bit at reveals. And they included the original staff credits in the cutscene. The cutscene has some new staff, but it'll have original staff listed as well. Original written by Hideo Kojima, Tomokazu Fukushima.
That's good. I
all
like
that stuff. And they actually commented on that, said that was something that they talked about internally. They really wanted to do because they wanted to honor the original people that created the game. The only thing that they really changed was the fact that it doesn't say a Hideo Kojima game anymore. It says based on Metal Gear Solid 3. And they said they wanted to do that because they've always kept that theming of, if a game isn't directed by Kojima, they don't put a Hideo Kojima game on it,
That's
so
fair.
They wanted to keep that as well with this game because it wasn't directed by him, and it, doesn't feel fair that he's not there making it and they're putting his name on it,
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. They credit him. His name is there. He's credited for story. He's credited where he was. This is a different game.
Yes.
This is not Snake Eater. This is a remake of Snake Eater. This is not the same game. This game has a director.
Yeah.
So it would be completely unfair to credit someone else as directing the game if he didn't direct it. This is not Snake Eater. This is a remake of Snake Eater. This game has a different team. The team needs a director, and the director of that team deserves credit.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's, good decisions all around. Like, I was just watching this thing and I was like, good job. I don't know what else to say,
You're nailing it. You're doing everything right, I think.
Yeah. Trippy says, talk about PlayStation classic IPs, Killzone, Wipeout, Motorstorm, Siphon Filter, G-Police. I've never heard of that one. Colony Wars, Resistance, SOCOM. Why the hell aren't they given the current gen magic? Resistance. I was actually just playing Resistance the other day. I have it sitting over there. I was playing the OG Resistance, Fall of Man. It is a really good game. Huh?
You like it?
You
like that
great?
Game? Yeah, I think that game has aged really bad.
It's definitely aged poorly, but it's fun. It's fun. That's kind of all I require for a PS3 game is if it's fun. Yeah. As long as it's fun, I'm like, okay, that's good.
I've had a lot of requests to cover Resistance, actually.
Yeah. I
think it's just because I talk about Killzone.
Yeah.
And they're we're in the same.
Yeah, it was a weird, like, crossover at that time of, like, those games being released in a similar time and kind of being, like, the same feeling a little bit, but not really.
They had some similarities between them.
Yeah. SOCOM, forgot about SOCOM. There was a SOCOM game I played on PS2 a lot that I can't remember. But it was one of those games that, like, I was too young to understand, but I just kept playing it anyways and, like, never got past the first mission. I finished a video game, says Resistance is like peak YouTube essay core. That's
probably true.
I don't think I've seen any YouTube video essays on Resistance.
I think I've seen one or two. I've thought about covering it, honestly, just because I get it requested to cover it. And I think it would be good, but I probably wouldn't cover it anytime super soon.
Yeah, it seems like good fodder though for the video essayists out there.
Yeah, there's a lot to say about Resistance, I think.
Yeah,
he's right about that.
Okay, so what else did they say in this production hotline? The other big thing that I noted here was that they said the whole game is playable from start to finish right now. They're not quite ready to put out a release date yet, but it is fully playable from start to finish. They're just working on bugs and ironing out mechanics and stuff like that.
Don't release it too soon.
Yeah. So I
do
mean,
not ruin this goodwill.
Yeah. Yeah. So that spells good soon. Like they said, there was this point where they said, I didn't timestamp it, but they said they didn't want to announce a release date, and they would save that release date for one of the big events like TGS or Game Awards or something like that. And then they announced later that they're going to be at TGS and they're going to be doing a live production hotline.
Might be a release date
from TGS. That's what I'm thinking. They're going to have this demo set up that they had set up in the London media event for the people there. And it looks sick. People are going to be able to play the demo and they're going to be there. That's my best guess, is that they're announcing it at Tokyo Game Show. Maybe they wait until Game Awards. It's also pretty close, so why not? But yeah, that, and the last thing that they said was they weren't ready to announce what'll be included in the Metal Gear, the Master Collection Volume 2 just yet. They commented on Master. I was watching closely because our bet, we have a running bet. If you aren't aware, a couple episodes ago, me and Evan made a long-term bet. I win if the Phantom Pain is in the Master Collection Volume 2, and Evan wins if it's not in there. And then the loser has to play Metal Gear Survive on stream for, what did we say, 2 hours?
It was 2 hours, yeah.
2 hours, yeah. So, but they didn't say, they said they're still ironing it out and trying to figure it out and stuff, but they did obviously confirm that Master Collection Volume 2 is coming out.
Also, hey, I finished the video game.
Yes, what's up? How's it going? But yeah, it's cool. It's I like these little production hotlines. I like when any company ever does this. You know, it's kind of in the same vein as the Silent Hill transmissions, though it's not as, this is a little bit more frequent than that. And
well, those are higher budget, I think. They go a little heavier on the aesthetics.
Yeah, and it's also about like, we're gonna update you on everything and we're gonna announce like a bunch of big new projects. This is just kind of, here, we're gonna update you on development, take a couple questions from the people, and you know, just keep an open line of communication, which I think is really good. I think obviously it's good just because it you know, allows the fans to ask questions and have them answered. It doesn't keep people in the dark wondering what's going on. I don't know. I'm just always a big fan of this stuff.
I think it's a super healthy way to control the brakes on the hype train.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the thing is, hype is good until there's too much, then it's really bad. It's good to be hyped and excited for a game, but if you get too much hype with too little communication, it can demolish people's experiences. In fact, you can actually hype yourself up to the point where you don't even like the game you play anymore.
Yeah.
I used to have that happen to me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
So these frequent hotlines are a really great way to set and taper expectations, to be like, okay, this is what you're getting. We want you to understand what you're getting so you can be excited for it and not overly romanticize what it might be.
Yeah. 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 And it's just, I don't know. I think, obviously temper your expectations. I'm always going to have that asterisk when talking about anything Konami, because if you've dealt with them in the past, then you'll know that they have tendency to make poor decisions, let's say. So this doesn't mean Konami has been washed of any sin, or that they're now a great company that we love. I mean, they did just license out Silent Hill to make a thing called Silent Hill Ascension. They did make Silent Hill
Lost Letter.
Yeah, this short message.
Short message, that's what it was.
Yeah, so it's not
we've had two bad products come out since their
return to actual gaming instead of mobile gaming. So yeah, but
we do believe in redemption.
Yes. Everybody gets a second chance, and even a fourth and a fifth and a 16th. But
you can always redeem yourself. You're never beyond redemption if you're willing to do the work.
Yeah. But I think this is, you know, a step in the right direction, which is something we want to, you know, talk about a little bit here, just because it's a good thing. Okay. Next thing we want to move on to is, well, hold on. check this out real quick. They did a similar thing when making Prison Architect blog videos with each patch update, detailing the new stuff and where the game is going next. Yeah, I've noticed indie games are really good at doing this, and I think it's, you know, it's probably in your best interest as an indie game dev, especially if you don't have a publisher watching over you or something. Like you have an open line of communication with your audience at all times, keeping them updated, keeping them in the loop, keeping them knowing what's going on. When I start playing an early access game on Steam, I immediately, after the first couple hours, go and look at the roadmap. You know, I try to find a roadmap somewhere to see, where is this game going to be? Where do they want it to be soon? When's the release? You know, stuff like that. So having those things out there for people that are checking your game out is really big, and I think it's super useful, especially for indies.
Yeah, I agree.
PlayStation are so invested in capturing lightning in a bottle with regards to live service that they're in danger of neglecting its core audiences.
I think they're about to take a big step back from that attempt.
yeah, I think that was kind of like Sony going to, like, deciding that they can do boxing and then like showing up to an event and then just getting immediately knocked out. And they're like, you know what, maybe we got to go back to the gym and work on some things a little bit.
Let's take a step back here.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I that honestly, maybe I'm wrong, and I think you have a little bit of better insights when it comes to stuff like this. But the way that I imagine it is like that had to have been a big shakeup for the industry. Like everyone else seeing that maybe has projects in early development that are live service and stuff, that had to have been a huge adjustment for people to be like, whoa, okay, that could happen to us.
That was a big punch, like you said, comparing it to boxing. That was like probably a knockout blow. But this has been an ongoing like boxing match for a while within the industry. I mean, look at the amount of layoffs we've seen. Mm-hmm. This is not the first project to fail here. We don't need to get too into this, but the fact of the matter is, I think that the Japanese executives at Sony have either had the wrong people telling them what the Western market is and craving, or maybe they got a bad idea of it. But the executives at Sony had an idea of what the Western market was wanting, what they were missing. And so they tried to fill that market, and they did. I think they filled that market. I think that they did. I think Concord did a really good job of filling the market they were trying to fill, but I think they vastly overestimated how large that market was.
They didn't realize that market was 500
like this big.
People.
They didn't realize that it was like 500 Twitter users, and they were like, oh, fuck. And I think people probably have been fired or migrated to different positions. Unforgivable. And I think that's probably happening across the board at a lot of different companies. There's a lot of restructuring going on behind the scenes. I think people are either losing their jobs or being migrated. And I don't remember who it was I think it was Asmongold. I think I saw saying this. I don't like watch a ton of his content, but I'm pretty sure I saw him say that layoffs are sad. It's never a happy time when someone loses their job. But at some point, you have to acknowledge when people are in positions that they're not really cut out for, you know?
Yeah.
And ultimately, the market will speak. The market will dictate what succeeds. And as a consumer, it is probably in your best interest when people who aren't in positions where they can do the most good are removed from those positions.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's I don't know. I think it's going to be a big readjustment as far as those kinds of things go. I think it's going to make people think twice before just thinking, well, we can just make a cash cow and it'll make money forever. I think unless there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't know, that the industry does, like with that game, then I don't think that, you know, like, was there another reason it fell? Did they bomb the launch or something because they just had so much money into it and it wasn't working? Who knows? But unless there's something else like that, I think it's huge change for the industry.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good change. I think it's
Yeah, for sure.
we're not in doomer hours right now. I don't think it's so over. I think that we're on the midst of we're so back right now.
Yeah, I hope nobody thinks that we're like, damn, Concord failed.
Yeah. I was never interested in that game. I didn't want it to fail. You know, I don't think that the stance to take on things like this is like super adversarial. I was never like hoping. I'm never hoping that these games like, yeah, fuck you, fail. It's always more of a, well, you know, I've been told this isn't a product for me.
Yeah.
You know, best of luck, good luck, fill the market. Everyone deserves a game they like. But you need to be aware of how much money you're spending to develop a game for the people who are going to like it, and whether or not the amount of people who like it are capable of funding and supporting the game you're paying a lot to make. And this is, I think, been a big wake-up call. Because, listen, I'm saying this as someone who likes games that fucking fail.
Yeah.
Right? So I've been talking a lot about this game called Syndicate. This game is like made for me, by the way. This game called Syndicate, right? This game was made for me. It's hyper edgy cyberpunk. It's got Dead Space levels of like gore. You can use a minigun to cut people's arms off. You can cut their legs off. You can cut them in half. Blood spills out. Literal guts. Super violent. Very edgy. There's a scene where a character that you're allied with walks through a train and just starts popping civilians because you work for like a corporation and there can be no witnesses. This is not a game that appeals to people. And you can tell because whenever it launched, it sold like 100 or 200,000 copies. And it was considered such a crippling failure that the Starbreeze team never recovered and EA like shelved it forever.
Yeah.
So I'm saying this, I understand the pain of people who like certain games and don't get them made for them. I'm someone who exists in the market of niche. Mass appeal is not something that I get, right? This is the reality. This is games like Concord are appealing to a market that is significantly smaller than people probably realized. And the difference is the audience for games like Concord are just a lot better at making themselves seem larger than they are.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like a vocal minority kind of thing. I mean, I don't know if that's the case. I don't have any stats on that or anything, but that's kind of what it feels like. Go for it.
I was just going to say, we've seen this a lot in the Star Wars fandom here recently. You probably haven't been keeping up with the drama on all of that.
I haven't. Every once in a while it invades my timeline and I just, I can't not see it, but I don't really keep up with it.
There's a bit of a Star Wars fandom civil war happening between like a few different Star Wars content creators, because one Star Wars channel like did a mass deplatforming attempt and like tagged to YouTube and sent mass reported a few channel creators.
Wow.
It was rough. No, I'm not talking about the 90s, although that game is great. I'm talking about the 2012 one by Starbreeze Studios. 90s Bullfrog game is great though too. I actually just bought that one in the sequel. So this channel called, I'm gonna keep this super brief. This channel called Star Wars Explained did this mass like campaign to try to have some different channels like deplatformed and removed for hate speech, racism, and things like that. And Team YouTube got back to them on Twitter and said, "We appreciate you might not agree with this decision, but we've extensively reviewed the videos you reported and found no one is at fault. They're not doing anything wrong here." Because they had a bunch of negative opinions about that show called The Acolyte.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Star Wars Explained is a small channel compared to one of the channels they attacked, called Star Wars Theory, with 3.3 million subscribers.
Jesus.
And it just embodies everything we're dealing with here, because you have this much smaller side of like the Star Wars fandom who really like The Acolyte, who is all about representation, diversity, things I agree with, by the way. I think those are great. I think everybody deserves to see themselves on the screen. I think everybody deserves to have their show. It screws you whenever you do that and your show sucks, by the way. It's not good for these mantras. But they tried to have Star Wars Theory.
Has to be good.
It also has to be good. They tried to have Star Wars Theory deplatformed and tried to have his channel demonetized, citing hate speech. And they bit off way more than they could chew, and it backfired hard because the amount of people who agree with that channel significantly outnumber the channel that went after them in the market. And even Team YouTube said, "You're wrong. They're not doing anything wrong."
Damn.
And on Twitter sided with Star Wars Theory and the channels they went after. It's been rough, man. It's been dramatic. I've tried to stay out of it for the most part, but it just it's a small little embodiment of everything that's happening in the industry here.
Yeah. I finished a video game, said, I mean, isn't it just that Sony saw the success of Overwatch and attempted to grab that? The issue is more that the game took 1 billion years to come out and missed the boat. Also, Overwatch players only want to play Overwatch, so it's the classic, let's make an MMO and grab some of the Warcraft pie trap. Yeah, that's definitely part of it. We talked about this last week. There's a few pretty big moving parts here, but yeah, I mean, that's a huge part of it. You know, it's
not just that, because Deadlock is succeeding where it failed in the same time.
Deadlock is not a hero shooter. Deadlock is appealing to a different market. It feels a lot like a hero. It's got heroes and you play as them and it's a shooter. Yeah, but so does League, you know? Like it's closer to a
I could be way off on that, but
you know,
I feel like Deadlock is trying to capture the same market that plays Overwatch, but I could be way off on that. I don't actually know.
I don't really think so. I think it's trying to capture a little bit of both kind of thing, but I think it's, you know, to say that that's not a factor in the equation, I think is wrong. I thought
Overwatch was really weak right now. I thought Overwatch had like really gotten bad faith with their fans because they canceled their campaign mode and they went back on a bunch of promises. And Overwatch 2, I thought that if anything, now would be the time to strike.
I mean, Overwatch 2 had an all-time peak on Steam of 75K. They have 31K or 52K as their 24-hour peak. Not too bad. Not seeing anything crazy, but I don't know much about Overwatch. This was super recent, or?
Huh? I don't either. I'm speaking from a place of ignorance, but my understanding was that they had garnered a lot of bad faith because they went back on a bunch of promises and things that they had announced and promised for Overwatch 2 just said this isn't happening anymore.
I mean,
people
but
were really mad about that.
It, you know, like you said, some of these issues are issues and then some of them aren't, you know, like it's
true.
I think, and you know, I finished a video game makes a good point. Deadlock is more of a MOBA. I doubt that my girlfriend will pick that up, whereas she likes Overwatch. Like that's the thing too. Overwatch is pretty simple to understand. There's a lot of moving parts to a game like Deadlock. It's a lot more complicated. Like just because I have someone that I know that plays Overwatch doesn't mean that they're gonna like Deadlock, because you got to pay attention. Like that, you have to. There's a lot of moving parts that you have to interact with. So
it's absolutely true.
I don't really think it's grabbing the same market. And it's also an outlier example because it's Valve. Like there's, you know,
yeah, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah. But I think it is a big factor with Concord that they're trying to grab a section of the market that's already kind of been taken up. But
that's probably a factor.
I think it's a factor, but obviously there's other factors, the design of the game, the art, like the appeal, the aesthetics, like all that stuff goes into it, and it was just a disaster. It was a combined disaster of like all these really bad things.
You just have to wonder, man, like if the design had been like I'm not saying all these things aren't factors. I'm definitely not one of the people saying the characters were ugly, therefore game failed. Right? That can't be the case. By the way, I do think a lot of the character designs were not that great, but that's not the reason the game failed. That would be silly, right?
It's a factor.
But you have to wonder. It is a factor. You have to wonder, though, if the game had better designs, had tried to appeal to maybe a wider or a different market, would it have performed better? Because, I mean, this game launched to devastatingly low numbers. That's not just because it launched at the same time as Overwatch, right? That can't be the fact. Because it was like, what, 70 players? Just because a lot of people want to play Overwatch?
Ash in chat says the real question is, would you buy a PS5 Pro for Concord 2.0 exclusivity?
Now we're asking the real question.
That's a system seller right there.
I bet you Sony will do that there, right?
Yeah, but well, yeah, it's a good point though to go back to the MMO analogy. Is like, you know, there are games like WoW. Just because WoW has a market doesn't mean that it holds that market forever. You know, sometimes people leave because of decisions that Blizzard makes. Sometimes people come back, and other games have found success in its failures at certain points. Like Final Fantasy 14 is now one of the big ones with WoW. So you know, there's room for like good games to succeed in the same market. It's not ever.
Yeah, it's not like it's never. Remember when Fortnite owned the market and Apex Legends came out? Well, first off, PUBG on the market. Fortnite took it from that, doing the same thing. Then Apex Legends came out and did the same thing. But the thing about all three of those games is they were like doing it well. Like Apex came out and snagged a huge part of the market from Fortnite the fact that Fortnite was already popular wasn't the reason Apex would have failed. Apex did well. You know what I mean? So if you release here's the fact of the matter. If you release a really good game with a really appealing design that a lot of people want to play, you will find some kind of success, right? You might not. So Concord's entire failure cannot be summed up to, well, they went for a market that was filled, right?
No,
maybe.
No,
I'm not an expert.
It's a factor, right? Like I think there's a lot of factors here, and I think everybody likes to blame it on one thing or say it's one thing or the other, but it's a bunch of different stuff. Like imagine
live service.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say live service games are we don't have a lot of experience with this kind of model in the modern times because it's kind of new.
That's true.
So it's very difficult to navigate because you don't have anything to compare it to, because a live service game is a game that is designed inherently to keep you playing it and keep you from playing other games.
We only have like a ton of examples from the last like 5 years. A lot of the older examples are stuff that's, really lasted over time. We've only seen this flood of new live service games into the market over the last 5 to 10 years. So yeah, you're right. We don't have a ton of study on how this goes or what
if you think about something like Dark Souls. The Dark Souls games came out, and then other games that did the same thing as them flourished because that was successful. But you can't use that as a comparison, because Dark Souls is meant to be played and done and then maybe replayed if you want. Something like Overwatch is meant to be played forever.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't really compare it to a lot. So everything we're saying is speculative.
Yeah.
Like Dizzy saying it failed because it was woke or whatever. Like, that can't be the only reason for failure,
Yeah, I get the sentiment, and I get that it might be a factor, but I don't think it's the only factor, and I think to say it's the only factor is kind of disingenuous, to be honest.
I would agree. It's not conducive to a productive or thought-provoking conversation to say, oh, this game was woke and it failed. It's not.
Yeah.
Even if it is a true factor, we're not saying this by taking any sides. I don't really care. I don't give a shit. But we're just trying to figure out what's true.
Yeah.
What is the truth? What actually contributed to this game failing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, I do think it is a lot of stuff. I think it's the market. I think it's the aesthetics of the game, who they're trying to appeal to. It's so many things. And I mean, while I don't think Deadlock is competing for the same market, I do think that that game getting its beta circulating more around the time of Concord's release was just a death blow.
And it being Valve, and it was on Steam. Right?
Yeah,
you know what I
mean?
And
it was free. Like, also, it's like there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that too. Like, I think there might have been some people that were like, maybe I'll try out Concord, but then they got a beta invite to Deadlock and they were like, never mind. I actually really want to play this game. Yeah. I don't want to play Concord that much. So yeah, there's a lot of factors, but it is an insanely interesting situation, because it's like one of the worst bombs maybe ever in the video game industry.
And I finished a video game, brought up something interesting about Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, because that came out, did really poorly, and it had the DC license. But Marvel Rivals beta did really well and had the Marvel license. And that's not because Marvel's license is so much worth more than the DC license, but the DC license didn't. Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League didn't fail because it was woke. It failed because it was coming from the Arkhamverse, and it was doing all this marketing stuff to, like, it wasn't what people wanted.
And it was a terrible game.
And it was a fucking bad game. There's so many factors. Also, I finished a video game. You can't say that about green people, because that's representation for Son. He's Irish.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, please don't.
You can't.
Please don't. No, no comments like that in my chat. I'm
not about green people. That's representation for our Irish boy here.
Yeah, but yeah, oversaturated market. Looks like Destiny gunplay wise, bad art direction, charging for it, player base saying not into this type of game. Yeah, there's a ton of it. The charging for it too is a huge thing as well. I mean,
I've been using this as an example for as long as we've been doing this show, but people talking about stuff like pronouns being in the game or anything like that. I'm sure that is a factor, but it wouldn't be, I promise you, it wouldn't be a factor if the game was cool. Here's how I know this. Cyberpunk 2077 did really well after the release bugs were ironed out. Everybody liked Phantom Liberty. Everybody likes that game where you can literally play a transgender person. You can literally choose your pronouns. There's a transgender side. There's all this very stuff that would be considered woke. Nobody cared because the game is super fucking cool.
Yeah.
You can't do that and your game not be really cool, but that's not going to lead to your downfall, because Cyberpunk 2077 was incredibly successful after they ironed out the optimization problems and the glitches and the bugs.
830,000 players all-time peak.
What game is that?
Cyberpunk 2077.
Which has all of the woke elements.
Single-player game.
It has all of those same elements people are saying are causing games to fail.
I finished a video game. That's a good point too. Yeah, it just, I get it. Well, you know, I understand. But the other thing too is when you're trying to say that it's like a boycott or something like that, video game boycotts don't work. They just don't.
If anything, these games are being boycotted because they're lame, not because they factor. Because if you had this game that was like super fucking like edgy and awesome and gory and all the things that people are saying they want, and it happened to feature one or two of those things, people would still fucking play it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, and it's like you said when you were talking about Star Wars, whatever's going on with that, you said, you know, it's have the stuff you want into it, whatever. Like it doesn't matter, but just it has to be good. It has to also be good. If it's also good, no one gives a shit. No one cares. You know, they're gonna play it. There's gonna be some people upset, but it just has to be good, and that's all I care about at the end of the day. That's all I give a shit about. Is a game good or not? That's all I care about. If it's good, I'll play it. If it's not good, I'm not gonna play it.
It really is. I think it's that simple for a lot of people too, man. And that's why the Star Wars discourse is so disingenuous as well, because they're mad that people are criticizing the Acolyte and saying that they're criticizing it for all of the, because it had like a female color, like woman of color is the lead, but like I don't think that's the case.
Yeah.
That's just not the case. It's because the show was not good.
Yeah. Well,
it's because your show was cringy and weird and lame.
It's just an easy point of criticism. It gets
a lot of clicks too.
Yeah, it gets a lot of clicks, but it's hard for people to, I think it's difficult for people to criticize things sometimes, or figure, because here's the thing, if you talk to your everyday person about a game or a movie or something, most of the time they're not going to be able to tell you why they think it's good. You know, they're just going to say, I liked it. It was good. You know, and that's fine. You don't have, that's not your job. You don't have to think in depth about these things. Like that's fine. But it's kind of hard for some people to get in that mindset of like, what made this really good or really bad. And so I think sometimes, you know, when there's something like that, it's just really easy to be like, yep, this was the only reason. That's the only reason it was bad. And it's usually not the case, but, yeah, Hogwarts Legacy was like the biggest game of the year. Yeah, it literally was. It was the highest selling game of the year, and there was supposedly a massive boycott about that game because of whatever.
Well, it was being boycotted just because of J.K. Rowling's own positions, even though she had little to no involvement with that game.
It's another fan base I'm not super in touch with, is the Hogwarts or the Harry Potter fan base. Didn't make me feel like a wizard, not the same way Arkham makes me Batman for a while. I didn't play Hogwarts. Did you play Hogwarts Legacy?
I'm not a Harry Potter fan.
Yeah, I don't like Harry. I actually vehemently dislike Harry Potter.
I don't think I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. I've seen like 2 of the movies and I was bored. It's not for me, man. Yeah. It's not for me.
Yeah.
You know, there are games where somebody's like, this game is not for you. And I'm like, okay, Hogwarts Legacy is that game. Although I'll tell you one thing, I've said this a bunch of times, this is completely unrelated, but the exact game Hogwarts Legacy is, like that exact game, like reskinned as a Star Wars game set like before the Phantom Menace. That's like for me.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I would pay $100 for that game.
I'm surprised they haven't cashed that cow in, because
you would think
people would love that if you could become a Jedi, like you're a Padawan and you get this, you know, thing, and you got to go to fucking Padawan school. I don't know. What do they do? Do they have a school?
Yeah, you go to a Jedi. You're recruited as
Jedi Academy. Jedi Academy. Yeah.
You go to the Jedi Academy and you're trained from like birth. You could have this entire game where you're like, you start as a kid and like you go through the story beats of becoming a Jedi, and you go and do things, and it's dramatic. The exact things they do in Hogwarts Legacy, where it's like you have people who are like falling to the dark side and stuff. You could have all of that in there.
Yeah.
But the reason they can't do that is because it's really cool. and Disney can't fund like a cool Star Wars project.
They're not
They're in
allowed.
this weird like embargo deal with like the devil, where every Star Wars product that comes out has to be super fucking lame, like Star Wars Outlaws, where it's like, hey, do you want to play as an outlaw who's actually just working with the rebellion?
It's in their
Again?
contract with the devil that they can't make anything cool. That's so funny.
Yeah, I finished the video games right. Replay Jedi Academy, which I have a really cool video on, one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, and KOTOR and KOTOR 2, Disregard Modern Electronics Arts Jedi School Game. Yeah.
I just don't know why they haven't. I don't know why they haven't made that yet, because that would make a lot of money.
Told you.
Yeah, I know.
Deal with the devil. Embargo. They can't. They're not allowed to. When Disney purchased Star Wars, they like did a ritual where they like in blood signed in their blood, we will not make Star Wars cool.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how Jedi Fallen Order slipped through the cracks, but it's just barely cool.
KOTOR is one of the games I played that. Like, I liked that game. That's a good.
Yes, well, it's one of the greatest games of all time.
But that's one of those games where it's like you don't need to love Star Wars to play this. Like there's so many people that love that game that have never played Star Wars. Every time there's a cool Star Wars game pitched, it gets shut down.
I'm making a video on that right now, actually. I'm making a video just about like canceled Star Wars games, and all of them are like the coolest fucking thing you've ever heard of.
That's a cool video idea. That's a great video idea.
I was working on thumbnails for I think yesterday, but yeah, there's so many like Star Wars games that were pitched that are like the coolest fucking thing you've ever heard of. There was one Star Wars game, I don't know if you know about this, the Visceral Games was making it.
Which one was this?
Do you know about this? It's called Project Ragtag. It was the guys who made Dead Space, right?
Yeah.
It was Project Ragtag, the guys who made Dead Space, Visceral Games, and it was being like spearheaded and written by, what was her name? It was one of the project like lead narrative directors from the Uncharted games.
Amy Hennig
was front. Yes,
yeah,
Amy Hennig.
I remember that.
She did an interview where she was talking about where they were going with it. Was going to be so cool. They showed it was in development for like 2 years. They showed like in progress stuff. EA canceled it.
Yeah, I think I remember that game, because didn't it get announced and it was like, isn't there like leaked footage of that game and shit too? Yeah, I remember.
Like the coolest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, that game did look sick.
No, it is not 1313. 1313 that was before the Disney buyout, and that was only canceled because Disney bought out. What I'm talking about was in development from like 2018 onward. And it was canceling an Amy Hennig led Star Wars game with Visceral's insane. Yeah, super insane.
Amy Hennig was involved in Legacy of Kain as well.
It's what the fuck are we doing here? I thought we wanted like female led projects, and you have a female led. She was like the lead on it. You have a female led Star Wars project that everyone is chomping at the bit to get, and you cancel that. That's the one you cancel.
Well, she's doing. She did Forspoken, and now she's doing that fucking Marvel game, that 1943 Rise of the Hydra or whatever.
Yeah.
That like 4-player, because we need another one of those. We need another one of those fucking co-op.
Are they like, what are they? Are they just trying to like suppress this poor woman? Why do they?
I don't know. Yeah, right. They're trying everything they can to not have her make Kino anymore.
Yeah.
Somebody. Oh yeah, I finished a video game said in chat. Potential Star Wars games are being burned to fuel Walt Disney's cryo chamber. I actually, speaking of, this is completely off topic, because we're in the latter half now, so I'm going to talk about off topic stuff. But I watched this. Have you ever seen How To with John Wilson?
No, I don't think so.
It's an HBO show produced by Nathan Fielder, and this guy named John Wilson records like everything he does, and he goes around New York City and just records his life, and it's these like, they're kind of like video essays, honestly. Like each episode is called like How to Do Something, and he just ends up getting involved in all these weird things. Like in one episode he goes down this rabbit hole and finds this like meeting in the middle of nowhere of these people that all believe in the Mandela effect, and like documents their whole like thing. But one of the episodes he ends up getting involved in this organization that will freeze you after you die, right?
I've heard about those people. I know those people.
But they're like it's like a scam basically, because you don't. Most of these people can't afford it up front, so they'll sign out life insurance policies in the name of the company, and so when they die, all this money goes to the company, and it's supposed to be for like keeping you alive in these containers or whatever, but it's actually I mean, in my opinion, it's probably not all going to that, but it's crazy. It's just such a weird, like, little thing. And there was a ton of people at this like convention that they were having. All these people that were very sold on the idea of you know, being frozen when they die.
Damn, dude.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Walt Disney got brought up a lot.
I've been outspoken on how I want what I want to happen to my remains.
Wait. Let me guess. Can I guess what you're gonna say?
You already know, but
wait, have you told me before?
No, you just already know.
Okay, I was gonna say a Viking funeral. Is that what it is?
No.
Oh, damn. Okay. See, I took you for like a Viking funeral kind of guy.
Fuck no, dude. I hate Vikings. I'm like 70% British. I can prove I have
That was the funniest response you could have had.
Dude, I have definitive proof that I'm a descendant of King Alfred the Great. Like, Vikings are my DNA enemy, dude.
That was so good. Holy shit.
I would be disgracing my whole bloodline to do a Viking funeral.
So what was it? What is it?
I want to be cremated and have my ashes turned to a diamond.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
It's actually cheaper than a coffin. The process of turning your ashes into a diamond is like $1,200.
It's not. Oh, that's not that expensive. That's probably cheaper than a funeral.
It's way cheaper than a funeral. It's cheaper than a coffin. A coffin's like 12 grand. Even the more expensive, you can go up to like more expensive gemstones and diamonds. It's only like $5K. It's the cheapest and best route.
Somebody in chat said DNA enemy is crazy. Oh my god. Yeah, that's crazy. I want to be cremated, and I want Venom Snake to smear me on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ash said you saw pure hatred when he said he hates Vikings. That's true.
Yeah.
Vikings are fucking awful, dude.
That's so funny.
I have this whole, at first I started to write a video essay. I was going to do this video on my channel called Vikings aren't that cool or something like that, where I talked about how, first off, everything people like morally grandstand about like what's bad, Vikings did. They raped, they pillaged, they stole, they slaughtered, they picked fights in other people's nations, they invaded.
Mm-hmm.
People would be like, oh, protect Ukraine, but also like Vikings, when they were way worse, they were awful. Also, they tried to invade England. They took a couple of locations, and then they got their ass fucking kicked twice. They got slaughtered out of England. They came, they picked a fight in England, they lost. They came back, they tried again, and they lost worse. If you look up the Battle of Aclea on Wikipedia, one of the things you'll see it say is that there's very little known about it, but one of the things they say is that it's known as one of the biggest slaughters of any battle in human history. That was the Vikings losing.
Well, that's because like at a certain point in history, when people view it, like a certain point back, it stops becoming real, and it's just like it might as well be a fantasy movie. They're like, oh, they're so cool,
Well, you have stupid shit like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where it's like, oh, I'm cool with like my hatchet, but historically speaking, they took a few locations that's true, but when Alfred united the lands, he wrecked them. He fucking wrecked them. And I know because I'm directly descended from the guy.
Yeah.
Right? I've spent a long time studying this shit.
Yeah, I've never really thought Viking like aesthetic was that cool, to be honest.
No, they're lame.
There's that Vikings show that everybody loves on Netflix or something. Yeah, I was just like, I don't care.
They were so cool and badass with Thor and Odin, and they were going to come fight and go to Valhalla. They lost so bad their religion went extinct.
That's true. It's just myth now. It's video. It's video. It's Kratos video game now.
Yeah, that's how fucking bad they lost.
Damn. Rip Vikings. All right. You wanna wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's a good rant.
That's a high note to end on, I think. What do you got coming up?
So funny you bring that up. We've been talking a lot about Killzone in this episode, and if you guys want to hear me talk about Killzone 3 for an hour and a half, you can swing over to my channel, which has just dropped tonight at 7 o'clock, about an hour and a half ago. You can go watch my retrospective on Killzone 3, and then next week I have my Perfect Dark Full Series video.
Hell yeah. Go check it out on the channel right now. I am working on MGS5. I'm recording. It'll probably be out next Sunday. Recording it right now, getting into editing and stuff. I'm really happy with
high quality Kino.
Really happy with how it turned out. you know, it's me rambling for a lot about how you shouldn't, because the thing is, like, when I was researching this game, every time I watched like anything on it, even if it was like a little gameplay thing, like I was watching a video about a guy that was like 100% completing the game and the path to that or whatever. And he was like, you know, it's a great game and the gameplay is really good, but the story is awful. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I've heard that from a lot of people. Everybody
says it. So it's just me like bitching about that for like 3 hours basically.
Good. That's my exact stance. So I'm on board with that.
So yeah, I'm working on that. And then I have another indie games. I'm working on another indie games video as well. An underrated indie games video. I don't know if I said this on the show or not, but I've put a new parameter on the underrated indie games video, so I can keep calling it underrated indie games. The games all have to have below 2,000 Steam reviews. So if they have below,
so you have a metric now.
Yes, if they have below 2,000 Steam reviews, then I can put them in the video. If not, can't be in there. So. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm working on that one. Got a lot of really cool indie games. And Hollow Body came out this week. It was a survival horror game I was really excited for. I
watched Jared's video.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of people have been doing videos on it. And I think
I also watched part of G-Man's.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stream that on Sunday for a little bit.
Oh, that's cool. That's
cool.
Cool.
So come back here, check that out. Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate it. As always, we will be back here next week at Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. I love you so much.